Do you need a chair for yourself or?
Oh, here.
I can sit. She takes both chairs in?
Usually I have a lot of cramp. I did bring her muzzle too, just in case.
So, reading over the form Reactivity, is that correct?
Leash Reactivity, yes.
And then she was going to daycare, but then they don't accept level 3 dogs or something like that?
They just don't, they do, but they don't do the daycare with other dogs. I actually called them yesterday and I asked, hey, is it possible if she has her muzzle on, can she go back? Because she's never had an incident at daycare. It's only when
Yes, but to answer his question, we were taking her to daycare, and then the head trainer left, so they were no longer taking level 3 dogs.
Yeah, so they didn't have a lot of staff. But, I mean, she's super sweet, but she has had 2 bite holes.
Okay. So, fill me in on those bite holes.
So, first time was, I was walking towards the house, going back towards the house, and then this girl pops her head out of the door, and she's like, oh, I thought I heard a pit bull, barking, because she can react to some people, but, and then her dog comes out. I'm like, no, leash reactive, dog aggressive here. She's like, oh, no, it's fine. My dog's what is it? It was like 7 or 8 years old. It was like a therapy dog. It was some kind of pit bull therapy mix, like Shiba, maybe.
Okay.
So they were fine. Then they got snoot to snoot, and all of a sudden she just and clamped onto her face.
Okay.
It just looked like she was kind of stung by a bee. The other dog, no blood or anything.
So no punctures? No
punctures.
Okay.
And then her old trainer, has the social dog group that we take her to sometimes.
The one in Elgin?
The one in Elgin. Okay. So she has done great.
Okay.
The one time, of course, the first time we took her there, she didn't have her muzzle on because we thought, oh, she was great. And this is a place where it was an enclosed horse arena where everyone would start walking their dogs in a big circle, and then one by one she'd say, you let your dog off the leash, you let your dog off the leash. And it's kind of like a doggy free-for-all with her and I think 3 or 4 of her associates who actually worked at the daycare place. So they're familiar with the level 3 dogs, and they actually use those long little horse whips to kind of create space for other dogs. I forgot what they're called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, because I was going to get them for us here. Sure, dressage with Christmas.
Yes. And then she was, even while we had her on the leash, other dogs would come up to us and she'd be very nervous and, what did you say, she'd growl?
No,
just defensive.
You're making this a very long story.
Fine. So there was this other senior beagle, so she just, from how her trainer explained it, she doesn't know how to play with other dogs, even though her foster family had 2 other dogs she played with beautifully, no issues. But she would just kind of overwhelm the other dog and wouldn't take, what would you call it, like rejection or? Correction from other dogs well. So that's when she snapped and did a bite and hold. And she did do a puncture, and they took her to the vet. But luckily no arteries or veins were damaged. But
same spot, like in the face or on the neck?
On the neck this time. So they had to choke her out to have her let go because she wouldn't let go.
Okay. She wasn't shaking?
She what?
No, she wasn't. She was just holding.
Okay. No. Yeah, just holding. So, I mean, she does wonderful with the muzzle. We actually went to I reached out to some pity parents around the neighborhood. I said, hey, I'd love to meet some other neighbors around who have pit bulls, because she's very, very vocal when she walks other dogs. So it always makes you very self-conscious. And she did great with the first dog. He was a short little squatty girl, and she had her muzzle on too, because she's like, oh, you know what, I feel comfortable with the muzzle on too. And we walked for a good hour and a half. She was fine with the other dog, wasn't reacting at all. But when she'd see other dogs, then she'd, freak out and bark and.
Do her reactivity.
Yeah.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, like what would you call this? In your experience with her?
This?
Right now?
6, 5, not very.
Not very good. I think she's just very restless and what do we do?
It's a new
here?
area, she wants to check it out.
Is she on any medication?
No,
Okay.
no, just a little allergy little pill.
Yeah. Is that the Korogan prong? The metal? Or copper?
Yeah, just because with the regular prong, she would break out.
Yeah.
So someone said, try this rose gold color, and
Yeah.
her neck just healed up great.
Yeah, so that was an allergy issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, Vinnies are notorious for having skin allergies.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else I should know about her?
I did bring her transitional leash.
What is that? Yeah, let me see. I read that and I wasn't too sure what that.
So here's your muzzle.
Yeah.
Do you want me to put this on her?
No, she's fine.
Okay, I was gonna say, she's very good with it if you just say.
Oh,
muzzle,
slip leash?
It's like a slip leash, but it goes, watch out. Let me see. So, like this.
Oh, I
Like
see.
that.
So it's kind of like a gentle leader, but like a
Kinda.
slip leash.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that when we go, this is what her trainer recommended. So we do this, and this, because recently she's been trying to bite the leash when she sees another dog. So this kind of is nice. I know. Yes, I know. So this is nice because we've been working with her. When I pull up, she'll sit and she won't pull.
Okay.
But when she I know. When she sees another dog, she'll usually sit, but she'll try to wiggle and try to bite the leash. But if she has her muzzle on, she's fine.
Okay.
But sorry, go ahead.
Now, is she fine, or is she trying to attempt to get the leash, but she just can't reach it or get to it? Does that make sense? Because fine is like she's got the muzzle on, she sees the dog, she does nothing.
Oh.
Or she's got the muzzle on and she still tries to go for the leash, but because she can't get to it, she lets it go.
She goes crazy still.
Okay.
But most recently, we went for a walk just with her prong on and her muzzle. Was it with the muzzle too? It was with the muzzle, just no transitional. She saw another dog in the backyard, in a fenced-in yard, and she just ignored it. I said, wow, that was great. I mean, that hasn't happened in months. So I don't know if it was because she didn't have that extra stress around her neck. I don't know.
Okay. And the training that you've done with her,
Yeah.
what have you worked on?
Well, we've tried like the muzzle training. We've tried, what would you say?
Well, like just how to walk her.
How to walk her.
So keeping the, close. So she was doing like
So she has
dual
a pole.
leashes for a while.
Yeah.
So we would have the regular one.
And a flat collar on.
Yeah.
And then she said, oh, try the transitional. Some other dogs have had more success with that.
Okay.
So.
When you are trying to walk her with the prong collar, do you keep the leash short?
Sure, always, yeah. Yeah, so she's right next to our hip.
Is that from your trainer, or is that just stuff that you do just because of reactivity?
From the trainer.
Yeah,
Okay.
trainer, yeah.
Did they cover heel?
Oh yeah, she
Yeah.
goes beautifully, yeah.
Uh-huh.
She turns well. She
And this
rides
is what
well.
they short leash.
Yes.
So if you let the leash go, what happens?
I don't know. I don't think I've
She,
ever tried.
yes, you do, because that's what you do when you walk her, and you're gonna think she has to go. She
Oh.
sniffs a lot, so she goes her own direction. So she won't pull too much, but she will go and,
But it's usually a loose leash though, unless she has to pull to go to the bathroom.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
She goes
okay.
all over, but she doesn't pull too much, right? Would you agree?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And this is when she's under command.
I think so.
Okay. So so she doesn't feel. So what I'm trying, so
Yeah,
everybody trains differently,
yeah,
and everybody's interpretation of what a good dog is different,
Yeah.
right? And I get a lot of dogs that are trained by other trainers. Like I had one that started today that had who has really bad reactivity.
Yeah.
That trained another trainer that does e-collar and stuff.
okay,
And I'm here fixing that, right?
right,
So here I pick up a lot of things. They're making it too complicated,
okay,
for one. Okay, they're like, try this, we'll try this, we'll try this, right? And I'll explain why I have my methods and why I do the methods I do.
okay,
I like that you have the prong collar.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to give you a lot more control.
yeah,
I like that she's already muscle conditioned because if you're going to try to socialize her,
Right.
it removes liabilities. Okay.
definitely,
So here I definitely pick up some anxiety.
yes,
This is why she can't settle.
yeah,
Okay, so what seems like restlessness.
yes,
A lot of times when I see dogs that have anxiety or look what looks like anxiety,
yeah,
it's overstimulation.
mm,
I really don't pick that up here from your dog. I pick up actual anxiety, which is rare.
oh no,
Okay, doesn't make it good or bad.
yeah,
And I lowered it because I think she also became a little too warm.
oh yeah,
So here,
sit, relax,
here, you don't actually want to touch her.
oh,
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to console her,
Yeah.
or you're trying to help her relax.
yes, yes,
Your mouth is saying relax, right? But your touching says keep being anxious.
oh,
Does that make sense?
sure,
She's good with people.
yes,
No issues.
men,
Oh,
sometimes she is
she
fearful.
has, because we adopted her, so she has a history of not being taken care of great, so.
Okay.
With new men, she can be very skittish at first, but she just basically
So she
like stays
cowers
away.
and growls a bit,
And then
but
she'll
doesn't
get
bite.
more used to them.
Okay. So what I'm gonna have you do here is that a standard leash or is that a bungee type leash?
Standard is just little like grippies in it, so.
Okay. So what I'm gonna have you do is go ahead and bring the leash around so it's on the inside,
Mhm,
and you're gonna pull up on her. You're gonna bring her a little bit closer up into this pocket here,
mhm,
and you're gonna pull up and you're gonna press down on her hindquarters with your hand.
mhm.
Okay. And every time she gets up, you're just gonna do that. Don't worry about now up. And like that. You're not gonna say sit, you're not gonna do anything like that. You're just gonna keep pulling up and putting her butt down. Okay, so this might get a little annoying in the beginning, but eventually she's gonna relax. Okay? So here, you have like 60% of what you need here. You're gonna pull her in,
Okay,
and then like that, perfect. Okay, and you're going to rotate your prongs so that your chain is on the top of the neck as opposed off to the side.
that's the thing, we don't know if this is a good size for her, because we know it's supposed to be behind the ear,
Yeah,
but
that's
it
good.
always slips down around the neck though.
It's good.
Okay.
Okay. The reason why it slips down is it could be maybe a prong tighter, but it's also just getting used to using the prong in a way that it stays up higher. So
Okay.
part of that is just technical skill.
Okay.
So here, you do have the correct fit for your dog.
Oh, good, good.
I'm sure you did research on me, I use e-collar and prong collar.
I saw, yes, yes.
Okay. So the reason why I do e-collar and prong collar, and really I do e-collar,
Mhm.
prong collar on occasion.
Oh, okay.
And not so much prong collar by itself,
Mhm.
prong collar in conjunction with e-collar.
Okay.
So like I had a lady, she was 90 pounds,
Mhm.
150 pound Great Dane.
Wow.
Okay, so obviously not gonna have physical strength to control that dog.
Right.
So she had prong and e-collar to give her the most leverage.
Okay.
And because that was also a dog reactive dog.
Mhm.
So she turned the corner in Wicker Park and saw a dog became, and you can relax with her here. And the dog became reactive. She needed the prong to give her more physical leverage while the e-collar did its work, okay? So
Is
here,
this, sorry to interrupt, is this okay that she lays down, yeah?
yeah, because earlier I said she's eventually gonna relax.
Yeah.
This is a relaxation I was talking
Okay.
about,
Good for
okay?
you.
So, and you're gonna just continue doing what you do, so if she stands up, you're just gonna keep doing that.
Okay.
And if she lays down, perfect, okay?
Okay.
So here, part of her anxiety was simply lack of direction.
Mm.
Okay, because she's in a new environment, even though there's not much going on here, she's like, what the hell are we doing here? We're not moving, I'm bored, I'm getting anxious with this is unfamiliar, right? So here, all I did was give her direction. Now, I could have said tell your dog to sit, but I wasn't making you make her sit. What was I having you do?
Give direction. Right?
You're close,
Oh,
but what's the direction?
give a command. Oh. Relax.
What?
To relax?
Yeah.
Ah.
That's why we didn't correct that, right? Because that's relaxation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she's much calmer.
So we have obedience and we have behavior. Her being anxious is behavior. Telling her to sit is a mechanical response. So the dog will sit, but the brain is stuck in anxiety. So when you're doing this, the physicality, the pressure, so like for instance, children with autism, if they have an episode, pressure, I'll just calm them down,
Sure.
right? I've had clients who we've done service dog, sorry Glenn, service dog. They have anxiety attacks, panic attacks, and we teach the dog to jump and sit on them, pressure. Okay, so here, pressure. Just kept repeating that. Every time her brain told her move, you said, relax. And eventually she goes, okay. She relaxes, right? When we talk, it's energy, right? So like this is low energy. But if you go to like a bar, what would you dub that?
Like higher.
High energy.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So here, like me, I'm an introvert, pretty laid back, chill person. I go out to bars and stuff. I can only be there for so long because it's too much energy for me.
Okay.
I need to go out, decompress, right? Same for dogs. So here, that's this part here, so you understand that.
Yep.
For e-call and the reactivity and stuff, Prong is a great tool. I love Prong, very effective. However, if she goes into like reactivity mode where she's at a 20, and with your harshest correction you can only do a 10, you're never going to match her. So there's always going to be that disconnect. Okay.
Sure.
So then we need a tool that can not just match but override the dog, and that's where e-collar comes in. Okay. So we do what's called pressure work. Okay. So actually, what you just did right now is a perfect example of pressure work. You pulled up, you pressed down. The moment she gave you what you wanted, you relaxed, right?
Sure.
And if she relaxed more, you relaxed more. Okay. That's the conversation. Same thing with e-collar. When people think e-collar, they typically think, well, one shock collar, right? Because that's what it's more popularly known as.
Right.
However, that's incorrect. It comes from old school training, the yank and crank method, where it was like sit if you don't do it, right? Same thing with the e-collar, like they would just really slam the dog. Plus, they were not as refined as they are today. They had like maybe 5 levels. The ones we use today have 127 levels. Okay, so 5 and 127 are the same. But I have 122 divisions now.
Right.
So I can very much fine tune it to the dog. Whereas with 1 to 5, you can imagine how great those jumps were in terms of power.
Oh sure.
Okay, so it was a kind of shocking like, oh, it's so abrasive.
Yeah.
So that's also part of where it comes from. And also just in the world of dog training, there's a lot of drama. There's the positive only, the quadrant. So they use words like shock and torture and pain and all that stuff to dissuade you from using these types of tools. Okay, but these tools are perfectly safe and perfectly effective to use. So with e-collar, the reason why I do that, for every dog that trains with me that is over 6 months is on an e-collar, no arguments. Okay, it's the only way that I train. So if we have food, we have prong, and then we have e-collar. Food only, great for puppies under 6 months, real basic foundational stuff, great as a reinforcer. Single digits success rate, okay? Because you have to have a dog that's food motivated, with a behavior that's not that bad, doesn't really care about the environment. You also need a handler that's gonna be very consistent, who's gonna dedicate years to do this stuff, and also like just a low level in terms of like what they desire for control. So like for me, if the dog is running towards a squirrel chasing full speed in prey drive, I want a 180 return. I want that level of control. You're not going to get that with food. Okay?
True.
So there's a lot of factors in order for that to be successful. Prong collar, much better. You're in the 40 to 60% range of success. Because now we have a tool that's designed to mimic a dog bite, so we're talking her language.
Right.
However, if the dog's too far gone, you're not going to match the behavior. Also, if we remove the leash, we no longer have a means of making the dog comply. Okay, so that's where we fall short. E-collar, the only tool, in my opinion, that gets you as close to 100% control possible, on or off leash. So I go, why aren't I using any other method? Right?
Sure.
So also easy to teach, very efficient, very effective. Now that we're in COVID, I don't really test the dogs anymore. I just coach the owner through everything.
Okay.
And I'm present.
Yeah.
So I've been doing this for 10 years. And before, I used to train the dog in front of you. So you could observe, you could watch and learn. And then I'd hand the dog back and go, I'm going to coach you through it now. But the dog would already have a baseline. All the hard stuff would already be done, right? So the problem with that was, is later on, if the owner came across a hiccup or something, they would struggle because they didn't work through the hard stuff. I did. I already know how to do that stuff.
Sure.
You need to learn that. So now you're learning everything hands-on from ground zero. Okay? So you learn even more. Also, everything is tied to you from the get-go. Nothing is tied to me. Because that also can be a factor. You may have experienced it or know someone who's like, oh, dog great with the trainer, but then when the trainer's gone, the dog's not as good. Right?
Yeah,
that's because the trainer does some of the work.
Yeah.
I don't do any of the work. It's all on you.
Yeah.
Okay? So, first thing we would do here is, I know reactivity is a problem. First thing is we need to teach an actual formal heel. Okay, so my style of heel is if I take 5 steps, the dog takes 5 steps. If I take 1 step, the dog takes 1 step. And if I stop, the dog automatically sits. With a completely slack leash, up to no leash if the owner wants. Okay, that's why I was asking about when you heel her, is the leash short? When you let it go slack, is she still at your side?
Right.
Right, because if you would have said, yeah, Jesse, we can let the leash go slack and she stays stuck to my hip,
Yeah.
and I go, okay, sounds like you have a good heel, I'll still need to see it though.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's actually the foundation for reactivity.
Yeah.
Okay? So the theory here is, if I get the dog more concerned with me, the dog doesn't care about anything else. We override the discomfort of the dog or whatever it is, right? And so typically how the program would work is first class we cover heel, and then I go, okay, when you go for your walks, this is what you're gonna do, this is when you're gonna practice, blah, 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 blah. I'll see you in a week. Come back next week. How'd it go? Oh, Jesse was great, like 80% of reactivity is gone. Okay, tell me about the last 20%. Oh, a dog lunged at her. A dog barked at her behind a fence. I mean, again, that makes sense, that takes time. This is what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a couple of tweaks, but here's the second half of heel. We cover that, see you in a week. Come back week 3. How'd it go? Jesse, almost non-existent now. When did you see it? Oh, we turned a corner, there was a dog right there. Makes sense, because it's abrupt, right? Then you go, this is what we're gonna do, because that's gonna take time, okay? And then we just keep building on things. So most trainers come in, and they go, oh, the dog's being reactive? Let's find a dog, make him be reactive, and let's punish him, right? That's like the most common way that people think, and it's actually not what we do. We work around it. Once we get the foundation down, if all this is good, and we're still struggling with reactivity, I go, no problem. Now we do the other approach, which is if we see a dog, she becomes reactive, then we have to provide consequence, okay? So we have direct and indirect. Direct is, dog does something bad, we punish or correct. Indirect is, let's put some structure in the dog's brain. Let's put some discipline in the brain and see what does it fix without even being in the context of it. Does that make sense? So like, I just did a reactivity case earlier, and their homework is to go do that. They're gonna come back and they're gonna say 60% is gone. So teaching heel here, fix 60% of the problem. That's indirect.
Yeah.
Okay, then we gotta figure out the rest of it. So if she's still being reactive, the reason why the heel is important is because she needs a reference point. Don't do that, do this instead. Focus on this instead. Okay, so she has an answer to the problem. And then we just kind of keep building on it. So like, and I'll give you a structure, and like if you see a dog, you're gonna do this, because you're gonna have to confront it. So then if I step aside and she's sitting beside me, and a dog passes, and we get no reactivity, good. Yeah, well, she hasn't gotten us yet, so this is fine. But at some point, she's gonna break because she's stimulated. So we have to teach her that she can see a dog in passing and not need to be reactive. And then eventually, you may get to the point where you can walk past dogs again. Okay, every case is different. Some cases, it's, yeah, they can go walk past dogs, no big deal. Other cases, the dog is capable of walking past dogs, but the owner, now up, and that's perfect. And the owner is not comfortable. But so the owner prefers to step aside because they feel that most control. Okay. Other people, well, the dog, they can't walk past dogs. It's just too difficult for the dog itself. But they'll step aside, and the dog will be non-reactive like that. Right. So there's no guaranteed answer how it's going to work. But my job is to find the answer that gives you the most power and control, but also that helps prevent reactivity. Okay. And then we just keep building off of that. If you're worried about socialization, I do have a way of socializing dogs. I do not do it that way, okay? Because that's a good way to start a fight.
Oh, the big, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we do go, she stays in the leash, and I tell her she has to have her muzzle on at all times. You have to be next to her at all times. And she seems happy, like she's fine when dogs come up to her, so. And we have tried an e-collar, I think you got it on Amazon or something.
That's a great color.
I mean, it's the vibrate, the, what
Vibrate, tone, and stim is most likely what it has.
I think
Or
so.
one of, or two of the three at least.
Yeah, so we have done that, but it's just she just yelps so bad and it's just.
Correct. Now, that e-collar that you bought, how much did it cost?
80.
Yeah, it's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one, so that collar that you're talking about has more of what we would call a shock type feel. The e-collars that we use are actually just a miniaturized TENS unit. If you're familiar with stim therapy, they use it at physical therapist's office, they use it at chiropractor offices. They
Like
use
those little like electrode things?
they move the muscles, okay?
Uh-huh.
That's, when we have an actual professional grade e-collar, it's actually a TENS unit, okay? It just stimulates the muscle. And again, 127 levels. So to give you an example, I had a client that actually had a similar collar to yours, and it went to 100. So I was like, oh sure, I'll give it a shot to see if like, maybe, you know, it's a, how do you say, not so abrasive.
Okay,
And they put it on 4
okay,
out of 100,
yeah,
and it made my arm jerk like this.
oh wow.
And I was like, if that's 4 out of 100,
What would?
I don't care, what would be 100, right?
Right.
But then also for like 10 to 15 minutes, my hand had a weird kind of residual sensation.
Yeah. This one's not like that though. I assume it's not as good. I get what your point is.
Yeah.
But we've tried it up to like level 12 on ourselves. It's fine.
Nothing, and
Yeah.
just for her, sure. So
Well,
just
because that's the problem though, is like what she hasn't mentioned is that she has a very, very high pain tolerance. So she'll literally like, she won't care. Like we've had times where we're just out for a walk. She'll see a dog go crazy. We get past, we calm down. She's torn up her feet. They're bleeding because she's been pulling so hard.
Yeah.
So with the shock collar, like we have to turn it up higher for her to notice. It's like she doesn't notice. Finally we get to a level where then she notices.
And then you get to yell. Okay, so that makes a bit more sense.
Yeah.
So that can be, now did you do the e-collar with a trainer or was this just on your own time?
This was a recommendation, but we did it.
Okay.
We do it with the trainer.
So chances are not layered in correctly, okay? Because dogs aren't meant to have their necks contracted,
Sure.
right? So that's why, so the reason why we start with heel first is one, almost everybody wants to like fix their dog's leash pulling.
Sure.
Two, when a dog feels an e-collar or feels stim, their first reaction is typically to want to run away because they don't know what it is, right? So we get flight response, so they want to move. So we use heel, which is a moving behavior, to teach the dog how it turns on and then how it turns off.
Sure.
Okay, so once the dog becomes aware of it, so like yesterday, I had a dog, it was a pit, reactive. You know, we start low, we started like at 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, until we hit 35. The dog was not responding.
Yeah.
Here, go ahead and pull her back up again. Up, up, up.
Oh.
Keep going up until she goes into a sitting position. We're going to go counter here because what we're just doing here is putting pressure on her. Even though she was laying down, she was not relaxed. Okay, so now she relaxes and then we let go again. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the prong, the pressure from the prong was just to break that anxious mindset that just, right, just kept going to get her out of that, and then we let her resettle.
Okay.
So, dog was fine at 35, but then as we progressed and we went a little bit higher, the dog started to ignore with like the distractions going on, and eventually we got a yelp, right? So then we adjusted it back down because finally we broke through the distraction. Now the dog is more sensitive to the e-collar. Okay, so as you work with it and she gets more tuned into what it is, the dog starts to recognize it as a line of communication. Okay, so then they become more sensitive. So ideally, when they become more sensitive, that means our number is going to go down lower. Sometimes the number goes up higher. And also with pitties are very physically tough dogs a lot of times. Is they can be up there in terms of the number. The other thing is anxiety. Okay, anxiety is an emotional state, the stress levels. So when we talk about e-collar, one thing that people don't factor in is their dog's emotional state. So we have size of dog, we have the fact that dogs are physical animals, they bite each other, and then we have the added component of what's the dog's emotional state, okay? So like, I could have a, 35-pound pitty on a collar meant for a 70-pound and bigger dog. Because the owner's like, but the dog's only 35 pounds, I'm like, I understand that. I was like, however, your dog is very physically tough. Plus, when they get emotional, it takes more to cut through it. Okay? So, and we'll talk about this too, as in terms of like the color that you would need.
Yeah.
But we start in a I don't want to say non-distracting, but like a we again wouldn't look for dogs. We get the foundation in outside of the problem, and then carry it into life, and then see how does it carry into situations where there are stressors, and then we just kind of change things as we go along. Okay. Now, pending reactivity is going well and stuff, I would see it this way: 2 classes, maybe 3 classes on the reactivity stuff and the heal stuff. Okay, if all that's going well, and you want to learn how to socialize her, I have a way that I socialize dogs that is more along how dogs. It's more natural to them. It's non-confrontational, and it's more so based on building a relationship. Okay, so it's not realistic for every dog to be able to go into a setting with a bunch of dogs and be social. Okay, now you've seen it, right? Because she used to go to daycare and all that stuff. The difference is daycare is a community setting, and you guys are more of like a private territory, if you will. This is why a lot of people say, Jess, my dog goes to daycare, but with me, not social. And I go, yeah, because when they go to daycare, that's a social space. They go to the bar, right? But when you bring a dog into your space, now the dog's being defensive, protecting the owner.
Sure.
So they're not social,
Sure.
right? So when you put them out of the element, which have you guys ever watched Caesar Milan? The dog was fur.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things he does is pull the dog away from the owner.
Oh, sorry. She was just shaking. I wanted to.
Yeah, that's just, she's got to detox. So he's actually correct.
Oh.
So,
I comfort her too much, I think.
and that actually empowers her weakness.
Oh no.
Okay, and also disempowers you.
Yeah.
So here, like his energy, like he's very direct, and then he relaxes, and he's just calm, passive energy, right? But he's also giving direction.
Yeah.
And that's why we create this, right? But here, because she's unsettled, that anxiety's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's where we get the shaking and stuff. Now for the human, they feel bad. But if you feel bad, she looks at you feel bad, and she's like, well then something must be wrong. But if she looks at him and says, you're neutral, and you're chill and calm, and I'm the one stressing out, I guess I'm the one with the problem. And she's gonna start following that energy. Does that make sense? Because this is exactly what I would have done. And if I have like other consultations where I'll take the dog from the owner, and the dog will be all over the place, and then with me, I get this. Okay, because of the energy that we're giving off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this goes deeper than just like the e-collar and obedience stuff. Like it obviously is educating you. The dog is pretty straightforward once you know how to like control your energy and all that stuff. But it's because we have our own thought processes. We have our own emotional connections with the dog and all that stuff. Obviously, you have a stronger emotional connection to your dog. I have none. Right? So it allows for me to very easily just come and go like, yeah, sure, we do this and this and this, and I correct the dog, and the dog helps, and I just keep moving forward. Whereas for the owner, like, oh crap, like, it's my dog, it's my baby, like, it's my, it's my family. So that's when things get complicated.
Right.
So, but you're doing a very good job. So, 2 to 3 classes on heal reactivity, and then we can work into how I go about socializing. Okay, I wouldn't worry about her socializing in a group with you guys. Okay, if you have friends or relatives with dogs, that is realistic. Okay, there's a very unhealthy ideology around dogs that every dog must love everyone and everything. Okay, it's just not how it works. With me, like I'm a social person. I go to Target and all that stuff, but I don't say hello to everybody. I don't shake everybody's hand, right? Especially now, right? But that does not make me antisocial. Same thing for dogs. Just because she doesn't maybe do well with greeting dogs on a leash, doesn't make her antisocial. It's just not her way of going about it. So I teach you a way of building a relationship with a friend's dog or a family's dog that she would see on a regular basis, and open up and build trust. Just like with us, we have friends, and I have guys that I've known more than half my life, and I trust them with my life. Then I have friends that I've only known for like a year or two, right? So my very close friends could like literally come to my house and like open the fridge and like grab a beer, and I wouldn't care. But if like I had just invited a new friend over and they did the same thing, I'm like, I don't know you that well. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing for dogs. She may have a small circle, but she'll have a circle. She's just not like go to a dog park or be in a free-for-all type of dog, okay? Which is perfectly fine. So, and that's really simple. It's really just like a class, maybe 2 classes. Because once you understand how dogs would socialize or like the appropriate way of doing it, it's just rinse and repeat. Okay. After that, in terms of like length of time and cost, it really just depends on how much you're trying to accomplish. The way I work is you tell me what you're needing and wanting. I look at your dog and I look at and think what she needs and wants, and then I give you what I think you need. You need, right? I focus on the stuff, the really important stuff. The rest is kind of just icing on the cake if you want more. If you're looking to just address the problem at hand, reactivity and socialization, 6-week program. Okay, 6 classes, 1 day a week for an hour. So I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. The 3-week program is leash walking, reactivity, because I'm expecting 2 classes on heel and a class as a variable for the reactivity if there's anything lingering. Okay, that's typically how that works. The 6-week is because you want socialization. Okay, so it would be 2 to 3-ish on reactivity stuff, the heel command, and then we can work on socialization, where I show you how to socialize her correctly. You of course use your muzzle, and then over time, if you keep socializing with the same dogs, at some point, from experience, people gradually pass the muzzle. Okay, now whether or not you do doesn't really matter, right? I have some clients whose dogs have progressed past the muzzle, but the owner has not. So I'll tell them, if it makes you feel better to have your dog muzzle, I honestly don't care. It's about the owner, right? If that makes them feel more in control, more empowered, that's what it's there for. I get other owners that move past the muzzle and they remove it. I get others that use the muzzle for the first 15 minutes, and then they'll kind of recognize when everything's good, and then they remove it, right? So there's no answer. It's just whatever's gonna work for you, okay? If that goes well, and that's like 4 classes, the next thing that I would cover is recall, but you call the shots if you'd rather learn something else, we can take something else, okay? As long as I think I can get it done within the time frame. So 6 classes is what I would recommend for what you're dealing with. If you're wanting like more control, then you're in the 9 to 12 week or 9 to 12 class range, okay? So there's 6 formal commands: sit, stay down, come, place, heel. The ones that we're gonna focus on, of course, is the heel, because that's part of the reactivity stuff. It also comes in play with the socialization stuff. There has to be a structure in hand, or at play, and then we build off of that. If you're wanting more commands or more control, then we do longer. Okay, so a 12-week program is like the whole, we try to get everything as close to off-leash reliability as possible. The added variable is her behavior. I'm not anticipating it to be a struggle, but when it has been a struggle, almost always, it's always been a bully type breed. Pit bulls, bull terriers, Rotties, Germans are very powerful dogs, okay? So in most cases, we get it done relatively quickly. It's pretty straightforward. We just keep progressing with control. In some cases, I could think it's easy, and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, we're like class 4 or 5, and the dog's still being reactive, right? Super, super rare, but I've had some dogs in the past, about 1 to 2 a year, where we can stop the reactivity, but it doesn't carry. Meaning, she'll be reactive, you correct it, and then 5 minutes later, another dog passes by, she's reactive again. Okay, so we can stop it, but it just doesn't sink in not to do it again. Okay, so again, it's super rare, but when it has happened, it's either been a bully type breed or a blue heeler. Okay, yeah, blue heelers are crazy. So, I can only take you as far as you're willing to go. So, for instance, I had a dog, her name is Malachite. Her videos are on YouTube. And it was like class 4, and the lady was still struggling with reactivity. Okay, and we were doing everything in the book. And finally, I said, you know what? Go to 127. We brought out dogs, and every little thing was 127. Okay? And it worked. I didn't see her for 2 to 3 weeks because she had to do some work stuff. And when I saw her, we were at Oz Park, and 180, complete 180. Because we were struggling with her for so long. Because she was a very reactive dog. And then we finally squashed it. But we were able to squash it because she was willing to just trust and say, like, okay, Jesse says 127 for every little thing, and we were able to fix that problem. Okay, had she not been willing to do that, she'd still be dealing with reactivity. Okay, so the theory is we start low, we work our way up. Okay, she tells us what's too much and what's too little. If she's being reactive and I'm tapping at 30 and she's still being reactive, clearly 30 is too low. If I put it to 70 and she's yelping, then 70 is too high. 45, 50. We're going right in the middle, trying to figure out what number is low enough that we're not going to get vocalization, but high enough that we're going to stop the behavior, and you're going to retain it, right? Because we want to be able to have her see dogs and not become reactive again. That's the goal. Questions on any of that stuff?
The only question I have is, so you mentioned like for her, at least 6 weeks up to 12.
Mhm.
Is that something that we have to decide on right away, or is it something that we can do 6 weeks and then add on if we still need?
You can, but you'll be paying whatever that program rate is, right? So like for instance, the client earlier was only going to do 3 classes because
Yeah.
it's just reactivity.
Yeah.
And 3 classes, I believe, is $550. So it'd be 1,100. So if they did 3 and then another 3, it'd be 1,100. But if they committed to 6 up front, it's $950. Okay? So you can do 6
Right.
and then add 6, but you'd be paying another $950.
Right.
If you want a discounted rate, you commit to the 12 and then you get a lower per class rate. I don't care. So that's why I tell you, for your problem, 6, and if you want more, you can add on more. I get a lot of clients who work with previous trainers, so they're kind of skeptical when I tell them stuff, and I'm like, I've been doing this for so long, like I just know. Every now and then I get a dog that it's just a more extreme case, but it's rare. So it just comes down to how much control you want. Behavior-wise and all that, 6, you should be fine, okay? And the 2 most important things every dog should know is heel and recall, okay? So if in those 6 classes, if it's progressing like I think it will, we can cover recall in the 6 classes, because it'd be 2 to 3 on heel reactivity, 1 on socialization, and that leaves 5 and 6 for recall, which recall takes about 2 classes, okay?
And recall is where the dog's completely off leash
And you
they
get them to
come
come
back.
back, correct. And recall is the one command that has to be off-leash reliable. So don't think that at the end of the 6 classes, she's gonna be off-leash reliable. You're gonna have the tools to get her there. It takes time to proof and get it to be that 100% reliable, okay? A lot of it's just logic, and once you understand, it's really just common sense. And the reason why recall takes longer is because it requires you to go somewhere, right? You gotta go to the park, put her on a long leash. If she has prey drive, like use the prey drive to your advantage, call her from squirrels, call her from rabbits, call her from geese, right? If she's making friends and like playing with dogs, practice with her playing with dogs. Because it's not just practice in your yard and then expect it to happen in real life, right? You have to start exposing her.
Right.
So that's why recall takes the longest. Heel is actually the fastest, because you walk your dog multiple times a day. Sit, stay, down, and place are just contingent on what the owners do, because you can practice inside the house. Right? So heel and recall, heel's the fastest, recall is the slowest. The other ones are just kind of however much effort the owners put into it. With the way that I train, you just train as you go about your life with your dog, aside from the recall. You go ahead and pull her in, pull a little bit more, it's okay. There you go. And then push her in hindquarters, and then relax. Good. And like right there, right? That low vocalization. Is because the brain goes into resistance, and because he kept applying continuous pressure and he wasn't giving up, she gets frustrated, and then the vocalization comes out. Because if she would have just went with it, there would have been nothing to argue about, right? So that's why that happened. Other questions?
I don't think so.
I have like 5 consultations in a row, so if I'm repeating anything, let me know. But one of the most common questions I get is, when does the e-collar go away? Okay, in my book, when you need it, it doesn't. Okay, for a number of reasons. One, you guys drive?
Oh, we both do.
You both do, okay. Go to the expressway?
Yeah.
Do you go the speed limit?
No.
That's called opportunistic behavior. Okay, so if you can get away with it, we do, right? So if you see a squad car, what happens? Slow down. Because now we have to have a consequence.
Right.
Same thing for dogs. So think of the e-collar as a top of the collar, right? When it's present, she's going to watch her behavior because she knows there's certain consequence, and you have the means of making her do something. Okay? So it has nothing to do with the method, it has nothing to do with the training style, it has nothing to do with your skills or my skills as a trainer. It's simply opportunistic behavior. Okay? So I know there's the old saying or the old thought process was, well, you train a dog and they learn to be a good dog. That's not true at all. Okay? Dogs are self-serving. So if something makes her happy when she does it, it makes her happy. Okay? So here, with the e-collar, it's not that you're actively always having to use it. It's just the presence of it keeps her in check. Okay, and I don't like not knowing I don't have control, or knowing that I don't have control. So like my dogs are fully off-leash trained, been off-leash trained for 8 to 9 years, but they still wear the collars if I know they're going to be off-leash. Okay, my pit bull hates fireworks. She gets really anxious. She gets really flighty. We were walking through Logan Boulevard about August, October last year, and somebody randomly set off a firework. It scared her. Now she was on a leash, but now my dog is anxious and flighty and wants to go home, and I have no means of disrupting that.
Right.
So I had to deal with that all the way home, right? But had I had my e-collar, I could have gotten her back under control again.
Right.
Okay. So the other thing is, shit happens.
Okay.
So if she's off leash because you got her to that point, and you're playing fetch with her or whatever, and all of a sudden like someone sets off a firework and it spooks her, or maybe an off leash dog runs into the picture, you have control. Okay, it's there just in case. I had a client, her dog and another dog went after a ball at the same time, triggered a dog fight. And she was right away, she just jumped, maxed up the collar, tapped it, and her dog yelped, but 180 right out of the fight. Okay, so she was like, hey Jesse, I feel really bad. My dog yelped, but was this the right decision? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, because that fight could have escalated and we get punctures and we get tears and vet bills and blah, blah, blah. It's like 180, quick muscle contraction, sure, just sucked for a split second, but you got your dog out. Okay?
Yeah.
So it gives you that ultimate level of control. Also, physical strength goes out of the picture. Like I mentioned earlier, think of like the Great Dane. I think her number was like 65, 70s. One tap of that, even though she was a tiny little thing, the dog respected her like she was like, 7 feet tall because of the power of the collar. So whether I press it on the number or you do the same number, it's the same. Okay? The collar that I recommend for her is meant for 70-pound dogs and over, just because she is a power breed. Because she's what, 60 pounds?
She's 71.
71, yeah. So she's right at this. She's right at the cusp of the collar. It's the highest power collar. All it means is like if she is more sensitive to it, our number is going to be lower because it has more output. Okay, but I'm not really concerned about am I going to be able to override the dog or not. Okay, it's a 1 mile range, fully waterproof system, both the receiver and the transmitter. I believe it runs with tax 325ish. They last for years. Okay, so I've had mine for 8 years, no problems. So it's an investment, but it'll last you a long time. The most common thing that we see is the battery is a rechargeable lithium battery. So obviously through multiple recharges, the battery dies out after a couple of years. You go on the website, you look for your particular model, battery, you purchase the battery, and then pop it open, replace it, you're good to go again. Okay, questions? Only other thing I can think of is you probably may need hypoallergenic probes, but we won't know until you start.
Hyperallergenic
Probes for the e-collar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably.
If her neck, if we start to see irritation, and it's pretty evident, like you'll see like a bright red, spot on the neck and stuff. Yeah, so if that happens, you just let me know, and then I can send you a link for either hypoallergenic probes or a comfort pad, so that we don't get any irritation.
Okay.
Other questions?
She's shaking like this. Usually she doesn't shake, so I don't think so.
I mean, it could be the floor is a little chilly, but a lot of times, with stress, because anxiety is, stress response, again, it's gonna come out somehow. So we call this detoxing.
Okay.
Because it's gotta get out of the system.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Looking at me. I don't have any other questions.
So I did make an appointment for like a re-eval at her old doggy daycare to see if she can potentially be there with the muzzle on. Should I keep that for giving to her to go for like socialization or
it won't help your socialization.
It won't.
No.
Okay.
If you want to take her so she could socialize and be out and blah 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 blah, fine.
Okay.
If I don't foresee it having a problem, with what you're doing.
It's not going to conflict with training here.
It shouldn't, no.
Okay.
Because it's different context.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect it to help your socialization.
Okay.
Because that's a very common thing that we get. Now with our dogs, because we socialize our dogs very similar to the way we teach people to socialize their dogs, that would help each other. right? Because we're on the same page, we're doing the same stuff. However, if it's just like that's their thing and they're doing it their own way, and then you're doing it your way, it's not going to overlap. But it doesn't really make a difference, or at least it shouldn't.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? No. Is there any reason why you want her to go to daycare?
Well, I just feel, I don't know, I just feel bad because she doesn't have any dog friends really around to play with.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's the human.
Yeah.
That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Humans put things,
Yeah.
right? Like, so she's not in the past, she's not in the future, she's in the now.
Right.
Okay, so she's not here thinking, shaking because she doesn't get to play with dogs.
True.
She's here shaking because either she's under stress or maybe the floor is a little too cold. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a human thing. Okay? So if, like, let's say I get a client who's not able to walk their dog as frequently, they feel guilty.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, don't feel guilty. Like, your dog doesn't sit there pouting up like, oh my god, like my owner hasn't walked me in 2 weeks, blah 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 blah. You know?
She does pout though.
But not pouting in the way that you may think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We add a bit too much stuff to it.
Yeah.
So again, I don't care that you send her to daycare,
Yeah.
but I do care about the reasoning.
Okay. Okay.
Because if I walk my dogs because I want to walk my dogs. I don't walk my dogs because I feel they need or anything like that. I do it because I want to and I enjoy it.
Sure. Sure.
Right? If you want to send them to daycare because you want to, by all means. But if you're doing it because you think in her head it's something,
Yeah.
that's where things get a little problematic.
Yeah.
Because it's not just there, but it comes out in other areas in the relationship, and that's where we get issues.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Other questions?
She keeps rolling away.
I
I guess I'm just trying to think about your question there. I don't know. She always seems so happy and tired when she comes back from daycare. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
it's
saying
so
not to.
fun. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah.
Just people put things on their dogs that aren't there.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to have you see your dog for a dog.
Oh, sure.
As opposed to like your child or something.
My fur child.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have no problem with it. That's the only issues. It's just the mentality that kind of is surrounds it.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't think of any questions.
Okay.
Well,
So then what would happen is I will get in touch with Maria. I'll send her kind of what I recommended for you guys. She'll follow up to the email, with the form and everything.
Yeah.
You pick and choose again. I think at 6 in terms of what you explained to me. I think that's where you're at. And if you're wanting more, you're welcome to do more.
okay.
She'll send you the make and model of the car that we recommend.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you don't hear from her for a day or so, I think Sundays is her day off. But also, we've just had a ton of consultation requests come through. So I have, like today I had 5.
Wow.
We had 5 come in on Thursday, 5 came in on Friday, we had 3 that came in today, and I have 5 booked for today.
Wow. Yeah.
So she's booking people and booking new consultations and on going through forms and stuff.
Yeah.
So she's a little backed up. If you know you're good to go, you can also just email her and say, hey Maria, sign us up for the 6 week, please send us what we need.
Sure.
And then that'll kind of help streamline the process, otherwise she will get in contact with you.
Sure.
Okay?
Ideally, Saturdays are probably best, or do you have Sundays too? or-
So my schedule is opposite most people, because most
Okay.
people work 9 to 5, so usually evenings and weekends. Okay, so
Oh,
I do
okay.
work Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
I know tomorrow I have like 9 clients booked, and today I was supposed to have 9 clients booked as well, but 2 canceled because of the weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of if there's an open spot, Maria would help you with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my suggestion is, because are you guys in the suburb?
Yeah, we are.
Suburb.
Okay, yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you know, like, yeah, for sure, my suggestion is you just turn around, email her, and say, if you got something on Saturday, put us down for it, you know.
Okay.
And then she knows that you're good for it, and then you can pick your time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this way she can start planning that out, because it's first come, first served.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anything else?
Oh, and then as far as payment goes, is it all at once in the beginning, or is it every class you pay?
You can do, so we have a payment plan,
Okay.
it's half down,
Okay,
And then the last half is split into two.
okay.
So it's half down, and then class 1 and 2, then we send the invoice before class 3,
Yeah.
and then you pay by class 3, and the last one is before class 5.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
So it splits it up that way, or you can do in full. You can also, you're gonna get the credit of your fee towards your
The,
program.
for the consult for,
Correct.
off that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you want to see how crazy she can get, or you've just seen it all before?
I've seen this for 10 years.
Unfazed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've seen from the craziest of the crazy to
Yeah.
like, what people think is bad, and I'm like, this is nothing at all.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
Anything else?
As far as this, when she's doing this, should we just be pulling on her to read?
Yeah, like he could have pulled her back and stuff, but we're at the end of this, so it's like whatever.
Yeah,
But this is just her anxiety, not allowing her to fully settle,
yeah,
right? Because earlier when she was at your feet, that was perfected.
yeah,
And then little by little, because we're going on an hour now,
yeah.
it's really testing the brain and the just the emotional aspect, of impulse control.
Yeah.
That's why she's like inching over and like becoming a little whiny and stuff. So, okay.
So she slithers away.
But, okay, all right, cool. Over here. Hello.
So if you have any other questions, you're more than welcome to reach out.
Yeah,
Otherwise, Maria will get in contact with you guys, or vice versa. You can email her, and then we'll get you all situated.
yeah,
Okay?
that'd be awesome. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Ooh,
Boy, she's cute. I like her.
she is, she's a good pup.
I have, when I first started my dog training career here.